It's time to get you into this week's Sirius XMU session. It's Josiah over here in Washington, D.C., welcoming back Clairo for a second session with us following her first visit a few years back, which I truly enjoyed. We've been listening to and talking about her music here on the channel for the past 4 or 5 years. She's been kind enough to join us for these performances and the interview in between shows on her 2022 North American tour. Claire, it's really great to see you again. Thanks for being here with us.
It's good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
So we're about to hear performances from the latest Clairo album, Sling. The album was recorded at Alair Studios, an incredibly scenic studio in upstate New York, overlooking the Catskills Mountains. Claire, I'm just looking right now at some amazing pictures of this estate, though I'm sure the pictures don't do it justice. Can you tell us more about how you ended up settling on this studio? Maybe describe it a bit for us?
It was this really cosmic thing where my manager, Mike, and I were talking about where to go to record a record because I really wanted to go somewhere and live there. And I'd never done that before, blocking out a section of time to go somewhere specific and live and breathe that whole environment. And so Mike looked up most beautiful studios in the world and found Alair Studios in upstate New York. And I don't think there was much on it at all. There was just some grainy photos on Google, but we had seen a lot of pictures of the view and we thought it was incredible. We had also realized Norah Jones recorded Come Away With Me there, some of it, I think. And then David Bowie made Heat in there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of beautiful history attached to it. So yeah, it was kind of a risk because we didn't know exactly what we were getting ourselves into. But once we got there, it was this hidden gem, I guess. I mean, not so, but it was the most beautiful place I've ever been to in my life. Definitely.
Yeah, as I understand it, it's been a legendary studio in many ways, but has also been hidden away in more recent years or not in as much active use. But I'm seeing these like huge vaulted ceilings and these like cavernous rooms looking over the mountains. I just have to imagine recording in a studio like that really leaves its own fingerprints on the music. Can you describe any ways that the setting up there at Alair Studios, the mountains, inside, outside there, are there ways that it helped to influence or inspire what we hear on the album?
Yeah, I think there was a level of intimacy that the mountain offered. I was there for a month and I maybe left the mountain twice in that entire time. We were cooking meals up there. We were basically living and breathing the entire mountain. And so while making music on a mountain, I feel like you're destined to mentally go into places where you know that the world doesn't have to hear it if it's too uncomfortable. You can allow yourself to go in a very intimate space with your own writing because you're so secluded anyway, and it doesn't have to be shared. It's just like a form of secrecy or a form of closeness that the mountain offers because you are so far away from everyone and everything else. You're allowed to have those intimate moments with yourself. Also, the room that we recorded in is called the Neve room. There's this massive Neve board that we used. And there's upright pianos and a grand piano and all these different synths and amazing drum kit. Everything just laid out over these beautiful rugs and couches. And there's so much comfort that came with everything being so sprawled out. And so after dinners, we would just go into the room and mess around on any instrument that was there. It was just a form of freedom within the studio that I think really helped it become this loose, free bunch of songs.
Totally. You definitely hear that on the album. We're about to hear Clairo play her song Amoeba. Claire, can you tell us about the origins of writing this song? What are some of the first elements of Amoeba that you remember coming together?
Amoeba was written, I think, on the second day of recording, which is very crazy because I didn't think that I would get anything out of the first few days, but the second day was just this massive awakening. With Sling, I actually started writing on piano for the first time. I had never really known my way around that instrument, but the more that I tried it, the more I realized it changed my writing and it changed my lyrics, it changed melodies, it changed my overall delivery on songs in general. And I think it was this really beautiful shift for me to realize I wasn't only bound to write music on guitar and that this other instrument can open up this world of emotions that I haven't had before. And I think Amoeba also was a bit of a reflection of the past few years and what it feels like when you get too wrapped up in your own career or your own problems and issues, and you end up talking about it so much that you realize you're actually distancing yourself from your friends and family. Maybe you're not checking in on them as much. Maybe you're not being as proactive of a friend that you could be because you're so immersed in your own stuff. There was a massive wake-up call for me during the album process, I think. Amoeba was just my way of talking about it and holding myself accountable to the times where I wasn't as connected to people I love as I could have been.
Yeah, that's great, Claire. Thank you for sharing that. Let's check out the performance together right now. You're about to hear Clairo and her band play the song Amoeba exclusively on this week's Sirius XMU session. Here we go. Heard the way Clairo played her song Amoeba during this week's Sirius XMU session. It's Josiah, joined here by Claire and the band, as we're about to hear some more performances from her latest album, Sling. Claire, I was so happy to find out that you'd be sharing a performance of the song Reaper with us today, which I think is such a gem on the album. As you were writing and recording, what do you remember most keenly about this song's journey?
This song was the first song that I wrote for Slang. I didn't have any sort of concept for my second record, but during quarantine, I went home to my parents' house and I basically lived with my parents for up to a year. And I got a lot of time with my mom in my adult life, which was very strange because I felt like I'd moved out. And, the last time I got that amount of time with her was probably when I still lived at home in middle school or high school. And I started to have conversations with her that I never got to have before about just who she was as an individual before she was a mom or before she was a wife. And did it scare her that her closest family only knows her from a certain point? Talking about the section of life I'm in right now, I'm in this individual period that maybe my future family will only know a glimpse of because of stories I tell and pictures I show. And I found it really scary, but I was also thinking about getting a dog, and I was thinking about being a caretaker for this dog while also talking to my mom about her own journey with motherhood. And it kind of blended into one where I learned a lot about what you need to do for yourself before you can really be there and take care of someone else in the most simple way. What work you have to do for yourself to, I guess, be the best version of a caretaker that you can be for pushing other life out, And lots of big conversations like that. But I wrote Reaper around the time that my mom and I were talking about it. It was this light bulb moment because I got Joni, my dog, not too far after. And it just kind of spiraled into talking about this section of my life post everything I had done to this point musically and pre whatever's going to happen next in my personal life. And just recounting everything, but then also being really scared about what life is going to be like in the future.
Yeah, those exist at the same time. It's all at once.
Yeah, definitely.
Once again, we're joined here for an exclusive performance this week with Clairo. Right now, she's bringing you her song Reaper exclusively on Sirius XMU Sessions. Hope you enjoy. You just caught another exclusive performance from Clairo, who just played her song Reaper, which you'll find on her latest album, Sling. We're so glad to have her returning here for a second session together here on Sirius XMU. Claire, I would love to hear from you what it was like getting these songs ready to take on the road with your band, who we've been hearing from in these performances. I've not seen the full live show yet, but I'm gonna soon enough here. Actually, your Immunity show at 930 Club in DC was the last show my wife and I saw before the pandemic, for sure. So have you found that, the arrangement for these songs, has it stayed pretty faithful to what you remember up there in the mountains? Or have you found these songs changing or adapting quite a bit for the live show?
It was definitely an adjustment. There were some songs on Sling that while making, we were like, thank God this song will never have to be performed because...
Famous last words, yeah.
Impossible. But of course, it has to be performed. And I decided I wanted to add more band members, which I think was really helpful. We have 3 new members who are all really multifaceted, playing saxophone and flute, horns. background vocals, keys, guitar, anything and everything. Our three new members, Steve, Haley, Danae, just out of this world talented. And I think that if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be able to really get across what slang feels like. But it was definitely challenging. We're now a 7-piece band. I had to relearn everything on piano for this tour, which was also challenging because I don't know piano very well, but I still wrote the record on it. So I had to be taught what I wrote again, which was very funny. But I think once we got the hang of it, it's really just been this beautiful blend of what it was like in the mountains and what it becomes in real life, and what things to highlight in a real life situation and what things to have in the background. It's been an interesting challenge to see, oh, well, the horns should come in louder here in real life because that's where people are going to be looking. Now like thinking about different things behind each movement instead of just solely listening. Yeah, it's been really cool. And we've added a lot of those new elements of horns and flutes and everything to some of the Immunity songs, and even some for that, which I think really helps caress sling in this really nice way and bring it back to everything else.
Yeah. Got to bring the old songs into the new. That's great. We've loved hearing, by the way, the woodwinds, the brass, the backing vocals here. I've just got you connected up here for the interview, but the entire band sounds so great on these. Claire, you and the band are about to play us out today with a performance of your song Zinnias. As you think back to your earlier work on this song, whether lyrics or the music, what elements do you remember coming into focus first for this one?
I think this song was definitely an extension of just the thought of closeness and home life and domesticity. I think I always wondered or daydreamed about what it would be like to live really close to everyone in my family. Because I know I have friends who have family who are still living in the same town they grew up in, or their siblings are living close to their parents, and they do too. Mm-hmm. And it's this really beautiful thing I've always admired, where families kind of gather together in very specific towns and they stay there. You can watch families grow as time passes. And I was thinking about what it would be like to live next door to my sister and next to her family while I'm about to start my own. And I thought it was a really beautiful thought. And it's a very simple song, but I think it's a very interesting one too, because it originally wasn't very upbeat at all. But I worked with Jock Antonoff on this record, and he brought in this acoustic bass that was really fun. And we were like, oh, it would be amazing if we could reference like Violent Femmes and make this really loose, fun kind of jam-ish thing. And so we came up with that chorus line, and that has been super fun live. It's been a really nice moment.
Yeah. Well, Claire, it has really been a pleasure to have you and the band join us once again in our DC studios for this week's performances. Whenever there's more music that you're ready to share, we hope you'll come back for another one, okay? It's been really great having you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Playing us out on this week's Sirius XMU session, here's Clairo performing her song Zinnias. See you back for another session next week.